learning experience.
Good. So I've had a lot of different people kind of come up and ask me about like, hey, how do you kind of stay on the path to figure out like kind of what you're thinking about, and like so. Oh, there's one over here. So like when I go into a scenario, when I'm thinking about what I'm doing, okay. So there's two types of scenarios, right? You have your trauma scenario, and you have your medical scenario. And so at this point, you guys have gotten to that point where you're walking into a scenario and I give you zero information, right? Like, because now I'm making you walk in, make determinations what scenario you're in. Are you always in one or the other?
No.
Right? Because we've escalated to that point now where I'm putting you in both of them based on the questions and the answers that you're doing. And so some of you on that scenario downstairs end up with an EKG that looks like that, right? And some of you ended up with an EKG that looked like science tack. And this whole scenario was based upon whether or not, like, what you did. So this person here, what would make you think that I would put somebody into asystole? What key findings do you think that they bypassed?
Vital signs?
Checking the pulse. If you don't check the pulse, what does this patient automatically do?
He's dead.
Not have a pulse, right? So going back to these two different traumas, trauma versus medical, when you walk into a scenario, everything starts off with a trauma, okay? So if the patient's sitting there in their chair, pulling shortness of breath, do I start off in trauma?
Yes. You just said everything starts as trauma.
Everything starts out in trauma, right? But as soon as I walk up there and I see you sitting in the chair, did I just move out of the trauma into something else?
Probably.
Do I take this and do I completely forget about it?
No.
No. But what I do is I shift my thoughts and everything else over here into medical. Okay? So now let's say I walk into the room, and I find somebody down in the middle of the floor. I still started on trauma, right? So now as I walk up, and let's see, which one, we had the bar, some of you got the bar scene downstairs yesterday. We had the bar fight, right? This person's sitting up in the bar fight. Weird thing happens based on how you guys move the person is now paralyzed, right?
And it's not because it's strapped too tight.
And it's not because of anything that happened prior to you guys getting there. So what do you think would cause a patient to become paralyzed after you move them from point A to point B?
Don't secure. You don't move them properly.
Right, because this person's alert and oriented, they got a bump on their head. You guys automatically just went like, oh, hey, okay, we'll manage this. Okay, stand up and walk to our gurney for us. Thanks, have a nice day.
According to Corey, that's okay.
Yeah, well, we're gonna disregard that for right now. Because the fact that you never checked the neck, you never checked the neck, you never checked the back, you never palpated. Yes, you can absolutely rule out C-spine-ish. But what you can't do is you can't disregard your assessment, right? So if I have somebody down on the ground, like in the bathroom, something like that, I'm starting here and I'm checking the neck, I'm checking for pain before I even move over to my medical, okay? Because even if they had some sort of medical emergency that put them on the ground, they are on the ground for unknown periods of time. They can develop pain, maybe they fell, maybe they got dizzy, lightheaded, maybe they are in a 3rd-degree block, dizzy, lightheaded, passed out on the toilet, but they have a broken hip because they fell onto the ground, right? So before you do any sort of moving or rolling or anything like that, you have to check a quick trauma. This is not your full trauma assessment. All right, you do a little quick little, hey, is there anything hurting? No, okay. All right, now we're moving over into our medical. When it comes to medical, how many medical scenarios do we run through?
Did we or could we?
Could we?
Endless.
A million. CVA, blood sugar,
Oh, so we have
medical,
like, let's
airway.
say we have 100 different scenarios. Is that easy for you guys to reason through and try to figure out where you're at?
Start at the worst and rule it out.
So what are the primary ones that we work on in the pre-hospital setting?
Cardiac,
Yeah.
CVA, respiratory.
Yeah,
Respiratory.
We're gonna look like a general medical.
Yeah.
And then we have our,
Altermental. Yeah.
then we have our altered mental status, unconscious unknowns. Alright, so if we have somebody that, say they're behind the wheel of a car, they crash a car, boom, minor damage. You can't figure out like this person has an altered level of consciousness, but they're behind the wheel. Are we gonna go trauma assessment, or are we gonna go altered mental status?
Trauma
Both.
first.
Start with your trauma, and when nothing makes sense, right, you move over into your altered mental status. So we have a patient breathing 6 times a minute over here with like snoring respirations, no outward signs of trauma, nothing that is telling you that this is a trauma-related thing, except they're sitting behind the wheel with damage, minor damage on the car. What's our next mechanism? What do we do? What's our process here? Are we going to start bagging them and intubate them immediately? No, you guys are absolutely going to do that because that's what you guys are continuing to do. That's what you guys are doing right now, okay? And so now we're getting into that transition where now we're doing scenarios. It's not a straight trauma. I mean, it may be, but we are getting to the point where it's like, okay, we are in a trauma and an altered mental status scenario at the same time. So before you intubate, what kind of things can we quickly fix that would wake somebody up with an ET before we stick an ET to it?
Narcan or blood sugar.
Blood sugar,
So your
Narcan.
unconscious unknown protocol is the best one. So your D50 and your Narcan.
Before you push D50, do you want to get a CBG?
Yeah, and you do people's
so
too.
that's where you do a quick, hey, do I have any medical alert tags really quick? I'm looking, hey, I don't see any crazy outward signs. We're gonna do a quick blood sugar check, make sure there's nothing going on. Because if you give somebody D50 that has an actual brain bleed or something like that, that's probably not the best thing in the world to do. So these are quick things where now we're starting to think, we're like, okay, I'm not seeing a trauma-related event. There's nothing here that's telling me this is a head-injured person or an altered LOC. Am I gonna let go of my C-spine? Am I going to completely disregard my trauma assessment? I am staying here, but now I'm grabbing bits and pieces over here to help me stay here.
Understand what's over there.
Yeah, to make sure that I'm not in this scenario. And if everything that I do over here is boom, I'm right back to, I open up the eyes really quick, I look, I'm like, oh, pinpoint pupils. I'm like, oh, hey, let's give some quick Narcan. It's like, okay, let's not intubate, let's hold on, let's assist ventilations, and let's see what happens. All right? Same kind of thing, so if I'm in a trauma-related event, and they're like, oh, my pain hurts, my chest hurts, my chest hurts, my chest hurts, because I got hit in the chest with something, are we in a full trauma scenario?
No, not fully, but you got to rule it out first.
You're in the trauma,
Yeah.
yes, because they got hit, so we have a mechanism,
Mhm.
but what do we have to move into?
Cardiac.
We gotta
Always.
move into cardiac, we gotta move into respiratory, right?
Because
So we have to start considering what potential things. The big thing I'm gonna start looking at is I'm gonna start looking at the cardiac, like is this, what type of pain? We get back into that OPQ or ST related to the pain.
or the trauma caused more damage to the heart as well.
So if I'm over here with somebody with chest pain, am I thinking altered mental status or unconscious unknown? So I don't even have to think about that, right? If I have somebody with just chest pain, and what's the first question I ask with the chest pain, the two that go together every time?
Respiratory.
Do they have any respiratory distress? Nope, nothing, so I can pretty much eliminate my respiratory, right? So you are eliminating things, so now if I have somebody that was hit in the chest, all those other thoughts that are in your head, over here with all these other algorithms, you can get rid of, right? And now you have these questions, and that's all you gotta really worry about. What I'm seeing you guys do is, you guys take this, and then as soon as I throw some sort of curveball medical thing at you guys, you're taking this entire, everything you guys can think of, and trying to run through everything and ask every question under the sun, right? So we try and eliminate those kinds of things in a quick fashion so that you aren't spending a lot of time in memory and thought process trying to remember each one of these. Make sense? So with that altered mental status, with that altered mental status, how many different things can cause altered mental status? Let's do it. Oh,
Lots.
Six.
Sure.
You don't gotta name them all off, but how many?
A lot.
A lot.
76.
Okay, well, that is wrong, so Dustin automatically jumps
Yep.
to Cody, nice try.
Thanks.
So you say there's a lot, but in all actuality, there's really not a ton of things that cause altered mental status that we can fix, right? Right?
Yeah.
2, 3.
Okay?
50,
So,
can.
maybe I'll wait till
You
you
can't
get that
fix
scenario a
that.
little later.
You could identify it.
So with these altered mental statuses, you guys end up on these wild goose chases a lot of the time. Okay, so you start ending up with just asking question after question after question. Go through those ones that we can fix first, like our blood sugars, our history, medical alert tags, things that are going to give us tools to be able to fix those. Does that make sense? I see glazed eyes.
Kind of like the H's and T's, like figure out the H's and T's you could fix, assess those and move on.
Right.
Don't worry about the tamponade or the thrombosis because you can't do anything about it.
Nothing you can do about it. Well, cardiac thrombosis you can because you can think of cath alert /
Right.
because you have specific things associated.
But I can't treat anything. But I can treat the blood sugar. I can treat hyperkalemia. I can treat those things. Blood
Right.
sugar.
So focus on things you can fix first, and then anything that you can't, then you come up with the idea of it's like, okay, well, it's probably this cardiac thrombosis because they have a long history of cardiac, they've had multiple MIs, they've had pulmonary artery disease. It's like, oh, okay, I went through things I could fix. More than likely, this is what's causing the PEA. Is this person had a major MI and they've thrown a clot.
Would that PEA show ST elevation?
Most of the time, no.
Most of the time, no.
A lot of it just depends on what the PEA is. You'll have sinus, narrow complex, but most of the time it's like an idioventricular. Most of the time, by the time we get there, very rare, except for after you give an epi, to end up with a tachycardic PEA, unless they're completely bled out already. Most of the time, it's a slow, real wide idioventricular complex.
What do you mean bled out already?
Like if it's a hypovolemia, so they're tachycardic.
Okay, gotcha.
Pumped out all their blood.
A trauma.
Yeah. So-
With this, the unknown unconscious, like, I always have a hard time with transport decision, like, what to do before, what to do afterwards. Like, how quickly would you just get them moving?
So like in a trauma-related event,
Well, in the scenario that we just talked about, like, unknown unconscious,
behind the wheel of the car.
behind the wheel of a car, would you establish that it's not trauma, get them in the rig, and then check CBG and?
Well, I'm gonna treat him like it's trauma. I'm gonna C-spine him. I'm gonna use C-spine precautions to get him out because they're still unconscious unknown. Because until I can prove that it's the medical,
Yeah,
I'm still in my trauma scenario.
so you would get them loaded first?
Yep, so any patient that's unconscious in a situation like this is, we're moving quicker, we're moving quickly.
Yeah.
We're not spending a lot of time on scene. Unless there's something like a needle hanging in the arm
Mhm.
or a medical alert tag that is like
Diabetic.
lights and siren telling us
They gotta-
that, hey, this is what is probably going on with this person,
Dead insulin.
then we're moving fast.
Mhm.
But if I show up and I got somebody behind the wheel of a car in the ditch, and they got track marks, and I open up their eyes real quick, and they got pinpoint pupils,
Narcan.
I'm gonna slow down my trauma assessment
Mhm.
stuff, give them a quick Narcan, get ready for them to jump out of the car and take off running, that kind of thing. And so, as you're going through there, your thought process, it's like, okay, there's nothing obvious here, right? Like, there's not the needle, there's not the medical alert tag, there's not those things that
The
are telling
windshield
me,
crack.
hey, this is what's wrong, this is what's wrong. That's where you have to use your investigation and your process of elimination as you go through those things. So, check your pupils, once you get in the back, be like, okay, well, there's really no reason this person should be unconscious like this. Okay, we're still in our trauma, we're still running trauma, because trauma's gonna kill you first. We're running through our trauma, but now we're jumping in and we're like, hey, grab the blood sugar, let's see, maybe, so in case we don't show up with this person with a blood sugar of 20 to the ER, and they give the person sugar, and they're like, oh, they're awake. Makes you look like an idiot. I'm not saying I've never done that, but, yeah, you feel really bad. You're just like, yep, I'm pretty stupid. I'll be honest, I'll chalk that one up, right? Yeah, when you have those moments where you look like an idiot, that's when you really
Never forget.
enjoy your job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a little lady that was complaining of like slight shortness of breath, and she was a little COPD and had some wheezes, right? They're like 1 minute from the hospital. So what do? I gave her a NEP treatment, got all her vitals, got her breathing better, rolled into the ER. Come to find out she's an SVT. I palpated the pulse was 80. Like she had a palpable pulse at 80. I'm just like, oh, yeah, we're good, yeah, okay.
Didn't put them on.
Didn't hook her up to the monitor or anything, because she told me, she's like, yep, I just need a little breathing treatment. I let her judge me, and then the nurse comes up and she's like, hey, so did you know that person was an SVT? I'm like, which one? Like the patient we brought in earlier, like 5 patients ago? They're like, no, little lady. I was like, no clue. So what do I do with any sort of respiratory distress from that day forward?
Monitor.
Always on the monitor. And you learn those things, and when you look like an idiot, it's one of those things. So that's why the way I train my people is, it's like when something happens, like our management tries to discipline people, right? And I take the approach of like, there's no reason to discipline. That person, I can guarantee you, will never make that decision again, because people don't like to look bad. They don't like to make poor decisions. And so people learn from that without even having to.
Especially in a profession of the opposite discipline like a nurse.
Yeah, no kidding. You don't want those stupid nurses ever, like, oh, it's the idiot paramedic that showed up here, right? Yes, good times. Okay, so any questions on that? Piece of cake? So you guys are gonna have no issues whatsoever anymore on
Never again.
The biggest one that I have a problem with is like we have all these algorithms, cardiac, respiratory, it's the abdominal stuff that always, we just can't do shit about abdominal stuff. So following rabbit holes is almost what you have to do to try and figure something out, because an abdominal pain can incorporate a lot of different stuff.
Yeah. Can abdominal pain be chest pain?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Female?
Yeah.
What about in a male?
Yeah.
Sure.
No, it can never be in a male, right?
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it can,
Yes.
right? So that's what, it drives me crazy when like you read literature and stuff, and it's like, oh, the female can atypically present with abdominal pain for cardiac-related events. And I'm like, have the people writing the book never run a 911 call where a man was complaining of abdominal pain and come to find out he's having a major MI? It's like, it's just one of those things. It's like, yeah, it's an absolute of anybody can present atypically. It's not just male versus female stuff. But the abdominal pain is a giant rabbit hole that you can suck yourself into and spend ages and ages and ages in there trying to figure out what's wrong, right? How many of those can we fix?
Not many.
How many of those are life-threatening?
Not many.
A lot.
Some.
There's quite a few that
So
can.
what is the treatment for those abdominal pains?
Treat the symptoms.
This one versus this one versus this one.
And Uncle the two.
What do you got back there, Noah?
Don't say it. You don't say it.
Hold on. I got my pen ready.
I was gonna say too.
What are you gonna say, Noah?
Just like, they just need to go to the hospital kind of quickly.
Good.
Not the only.
What
Not
type of
the,
gasoline are they gonna use?
That was
let's
a
have a
safer
gasoline.
We're gonna use gasoline to fuel our saw to get our battery-powered ambulance.
We have gasoline.
Yeah, so with the abdominal pains, yes, there are some that you need to know about, right? So what are some of the primary abdominal medical conditions that we need to know about?
AAA.
Appendicitis.
Wow.
Kidney stones.
I heard it.
Pregnancy.
AAA.
So what type of pregnancy?
Ectopic.
Okay, so every abdominal pain we talked about is ectopic pregnancy in a female until proven otherwise, right? What else?
AAA.
AAA.
AAA. What else? Appendicitis. What type of appendicitis? Ruptured appendicitis. So if somebody says, oh, I feel better. What do you think? Oh, I feel so much worse right now, right? So the fact is if they feel, oh, I feel so much better, either it's gas, and they feel, oh, okay, pass some gas, and it's gonna smell really bad in the back of your ambulance in a second, or the appendix just burst. And now they're gonna get peritonitis, inflammation, they can potentially bleed out, and hey, that hybrid ambulance that you're driving that doesn't use diesel isn't gonna go fast enough, right? And so appendicitis, what else?
Do you care about kidney stones?
No,
I didn't think so.
unless you've ever had one.
Yeah.
And then you give Toradol.
Then you give Toradol.
Pancreatitis?
Pancreatitis, is that gonna kill somebody?
No.
Eventually, yes.
If it
Eventually,
bursts.
is it gonna kill them in the back of your ambulance?
No.
More than likely not.
Ruptured spleen?
Oh, the old ruptured spleen. Is that gonna kill somebody?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Most of those are trauma related, right? What else?
Pelvis.
GI bleeds.
GI bleeds, is that gonna kill somebody?
Depends
Depending
how
on the
bad.
GI bleed.
I'll tell you, a GI bleed can absolutely kill somebody, right? Especially with all the new types of blood thinners that are out there. If somebody starts to develop, so there's different types of GI bleeds, right? So you get the bright red, frank, like rectal style bleeding, and then you get the blood that's been digested. You got upper GI. So you have multiple types of GI. Anytime somebody is flowing blood in either direction,
Bad.
that's legit bad. Like, they can legitimately die, right? What do we do for that? And don't say it, yes, we all know code 3. We all know that. We're better than that, right? We make decisions and we treat, right?
We're gonna start IVs, control the blood pressure
IV
Up
Do we want to
to,
increase the blood pressure in these people?
up to 80.
No, we do not want to increase blood pressure because
Did
it's
you
what does
get
it do?
TXI?
No, we don't.
It's just gonna push it out more.
Right, it's just
I
gonna
just
dilute it
meant
and
control
keep
the blood pressure
pressure.
to
Yep.
80.
Yep, so you're gonna try, so these are some of the patients that you're gonna want to try and keep your pressure pretty low, right? You want to keep their brain perfusing and their mentation up, but for the most part, you're keeping their pressures low because you don't want more coming out, right? I took a transport with my physician advisor, jumped in the back of the ambulance with me. That's a bad sign when you're physician, and I'm just like, hey, what's up? He's like, hey, I'm gonna go with you. He's like, I know it's a GI bleed, and I know you're hanging blood and stuff. He's like, but I'm coming with you because I don't think the patient's gonna make it all the way there. I'm like, great,
How was he even there in the first?
awesome. So this
It's
was
just-
a hospital transport. He was the offgoing ER doc, and he's just like, and I had to go from Florence to Riverbend. I'm like, so it's like only an hour trip, right? Like, you can keep anybody alive for an hour in the back. In the ambulance, right? We have enough stuff, we have enough fluid. I mean, granted, they are probably like gonna be pure saline by the time you get them there, but we have stuff to keep the pressures up and keep that kind of stuff working, right? So when he says that, and he's one of these docs that's worked over on the East Coast for a long time and just kind of came over here to retire. So when he hops in the back, he's like, I'm going with you, and I'm just like, okay, cool. And I'm sitting there and we start heading over, and we get about, does anybody know like where like Winslaw Park is? You know where you know to get to Kentucky Falls, to go for a hike up Kentucky Falls. So right there,
Whitaker Creek.
right there, this guy is like at a pressure of like 40 systolic, like to the point where I couldn't feel anything, but the machine kept saying it was 40 systolic. Because it just kept dropping and dropping and dropping, and I'm like, man, and like, it was a lower GI bleed, and the blood, I mean, there was just blood just saturating the lower regions, right? And it smelled horrific. And so, as we're going, he's like, I'm listening to lung sounds, I'm like, man, I do not have lung sounds on the left side. And I'm trying to figure out why, like, there's no trauma related to this, and I'm just like, and I just slowly lost left lung sounds. And he's like, all right, are you ready? I'm like, I don't really know what I'm ready for, but he's like, yeah, let's pull over for a second. So we pull over, and he had brought a vacuum cleaner about this size, right? And he has a needle with like this hook on it. And I'm like, all right, I'm still trying to figure out what's going on, and I'm not tracking because, I mean, he's in doctor mode, and I'm in paramedic mode, so he's just like, I'm like his little assistant now, like telling me nothing, and he's just working.
You're a nurse now.
So he grabs this needle, he throws the guy's arm up in the air, and he comes up and he goes mid-axillary line and just basically puts like a chest tube in this guy's thing, and then he plugs it into the vacuum cleaner, and within 15 seconds, this thing was completely full of blood. And he goes, so do you have anything else? I'm like, we don't carry vacuum cleaners, we don't carry anything like that. I go, I got urinals. He's like, get the urinals. I'm like, okay. Well, urinals don't create a vacuum, right? So then he grabs the big 60cc syringe and he starts just drawing blood out of this guy's chest. So this GI bleed has converted now to the point where he's bleeding so much in his intestines that it's filled up his chest cavity. Wow. And so we keep drawing. So I filled up the first filled up the male urinal. You always go male first
Yep.
because they have a cap.
Yep.
So everybody always asks me why I wear rubber bands around my wrist, and I had just started wearing rubber bands right before then, right? So we get the female urinal, we fill the female urinal up. And I'm like looking around, I'm like, hey, we don't have a cap. I'm like, wait, I got a garbage bag, so I take the garbage bag, wrap it over the top, take my rubber band, wrap that around the top, and I set that there. And so whenever anybody asks me from that day forward, I'm just like, hey, this is exactly why I do it, right? So we fill up the female urinal, and then he's just like, we need more. I'm like, the only thing I have left is a bedpan. He's like, let's do it. And so we go, and we get to the point where, I mean, Highway 126 is not a like straight road, right?
Or
Like-
smooth.
Or smooth. So I'm like, all right, doc, this is the deal. I'm like, I'm only letting you pull out enough blood. We're keeping it that far below the rim of this thing. And he's like, we'll see we'll see. Like, because by then I'm like, I'm laughing in my head of what we're doing here on the side of the road, right? And we're doing this, and like, so I finally had the verbal ability. It was like, I gotta joke around about this a little bit. I'm like, but yeah, that's as much as I'm giving you. And so we both, it didn't fill, it was only about halfway full. And so now I'm like, okay. So I so I stuck my head up to the driver's seat and I go, hey, what are the chances that I can give you a 1-inch buffer on this bedpan back here? Because he didn't totally understand what we were doing. And he goes, not a chance. I'm like, yeah, I didn't think so. I'm like, so this is the deal. We have a bedpan back here that's full of blood. I'm like, we're gonna go into the hospital with the patient. If you spill this, you're gonna be the one cleaning it up. And then I mention it's a GI bleed and it smells like poop on top of it. I'm like, so, how about you work on it? He's like, done. So, shoved it down in the side where the door is, wedged it in there. We didn't have anything that we could wrap around it. And so I kind of put a couple blankets, kind of help absorb it if things happen. The dude did an awesome job driving. He's just like, we got there, and was like, so, what do you think? He's like, you know, I've driven a lot of like code 3 as fast as I can, transport from here to there. He's like, I haven't had white knuckles and sweaty like I did with that call right there. He's like, all I kept thinking about was it going like mid-air. And he goes, and I chuckled a little bit because then I imagined it landing on you guys. Like, he goes, so I really was like debating which way do I go with this. I was like, he goes, you're lucky that the physician advisor that was in the back with us with that one. I was just like, yeah, you're killing me. So yes, GI bleeds can be legitimately life-threatening.
Did he make it?
He did not. He did not.
Are you gonna reuse it?
Did he make it to
Actually,
Riverbend?
what happened is we, after we sucked all that blood out of it, he kind of woke up and he signed our patient refusal and he got out and he walked home.
Oh, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah,
Did he make it to Riverbend?
he did make it to Riverbend, yeah.
It's all
And so
about-
then, the funny thing was, is so the doc gets super car sick, so of course we put him in the back then, just to show him, don't ever come with us again, kind of thing. But then he goes, hey, so if I would have given you the orders to be able to do that, would you have been able to do it? I was like, yeah. I was like, it's a pretty simple procedure. I mean, the needle's designed, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, but I'm pretty sure you would have had to have been sitting right next to me, observing me be able to do the procedure. And he's just like, yeah, I know, but I know it's just a lot of time I give you guys the orders of, because he'll just put on like our transfer orders, keep them alive. That's his transfer orders. He says, keep them alive and use ACLS to get them there. He goes, and then whatever you use, I'll sign and say that's what you use when you get back. I'm like, dude, you gotta give us better, like, advisory stuff than that, man.
Yes, we
ACLS with the fixed-
suck out.
HT, yeah.
Right, that's the thing. I was like, I could not believe, like,
Nalgene model.
all blood instantly. Like, it was 10 to 15 seconds. So, like, it takes 10 to 15 seconds to fill up a blood draw. But it was like, it legitimately looked like we had one of those big, giant, rubber, like, squeegee things, that, like, you look like people that OD on drugs, you see wrapped around their, arms and stuff. Yeah, so it was a big old tube. It was just like, and it was full. It was like, great. So. All right, so there's lots of abdominal stuff that can kill you. There's not a lot of stuff that we can do for it. So being able to really recognize what it is. Yeah, a lot of people just have gastric reflux and stuff like that. It's just some of those extra signs, do they have fevers, do they have those kinds of things associated with pain and stuff, so. It's that type of thought process, alright? So, questions, does that kind of clarify a little bit? Don't spend a lot of time on wild goose chases. Don't spend a lot of time on wild goose chases is the moral of the thought process, and just focus on the ones that you can really fix and that are legitimately gonna kill somebody.
So how would you know that that's going into a hemothorax just because you're losing your lung sounds?
Because there was no other cause for
For
the lung
But you
sounds.
knew you had a GI bleed.
We knew he was bleeding actively, retroperitoneal, I mean, basically all of his.
You have gastric, not distension, but rigidity.
Yep.
And
the
then-
gastric rigidity, it was flowing out his rectum, in a, basically like a constant flow, right?
And then you're pumping more blood into him.
Yep,
So it's going in one arm, out the ass.
yep, exactly. So, and obviously it was coming out faster than we could put it in. So that's why you always get big IVs.
Yeah.
With those types of things.
What would have you done if he wasn't there, the doctor wasn't there?
I would have stuck my head up front and said to take the governor off the hybrid. And, no, I'm just kidding. There's not a whole lot you would be able to do. You're gonna end up working a code, probably, halfway.
Would you call your physician advisor to let them know what you have and ask for
I would
advice?
have called Riverbend because they were going to be the ones receiving and be like, hey, just so you know, this is what we got, this is what has changed. Is there anything that you can think of that you would want us to do? Because they're not gonna recommend, to a thoracentesis on the left side. It's just not something that we do in the pre-hospital setting, or it's not even in our thought process in the pre-hospital setting. So when he started like pulling this stuff out, I'm like, I don't even know what we're doing right now. And so then he sticks the needle in mid-axillary, and I'm like, oh, I feel like this is like a hybrid chest tube we're doing here. So it was not a whole lot that we would be able to do. Fluids. Yeah, because for me, I'm not gonna needle decompress because there's not a tension pneumothorax developing yet.
And the only thing you really were doing was making him breathe better. So you would just do the best you can at
Yeah.
breathing with what you
We're
had.
not, we would not have been able to keep up with the blood loss. All we're doing is just removing the blood in a different method to allow the lungs to expand.
Was she sedated?
Yeah, it is intubated.
He was intubated. And you
Is he on a
have just
ventilator?
a ventilator running that?
Yeah,
So you were already maximizing your oxygenation.
yeah, yep. And so then you start, as you run those ventilators, you'll notice that they start to, they'll start to pop off when they start to meet resistance. And so then that's some of your first kind of clues of being like, oh, I wonder why that's doing it. So then you go through your dope little mechanism, or rule out, figure out, it's like, okay, why are we having this pressure difference that's causing the pop off on your ventilator? So ultimately, the best thing to do is to have somebody manually bag it, because they're gonna pick it up quicker. If they know anything about how to bag, they're gonna understand what's going on before anybody.
I just wanted to ask, the decrease in his blood pressure, was that because his heart was surrounded by blood?
Nope, that's because his blood was leaving the circulatory system into his abdominal cavity and out his rectum.
Okay, and it was also filling up.
But not quite enough to cause pressure yet.
You were
Yeah.
replacing,
Not
fluid with actual whole blood?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I was just thinking, like, that guy was losing so much that normal saline.
Yeah, no, normal saline wouldn't work. And yeah, that's the thing, when you take long transports, you go from hospital to hospital, they give you blood.
Okay.
A bunch of it, and they're like, hey, this is the rate he's losing it at, this is the rate we're gonna send you with it, and we're gonna send you with like 4 or 5 extra, and you just bring it back. when you're done. So, that was the first call as a paramedic was a code 3 transport, hanging blood. I'd never hung blood, I didn't know how to hook blood up. First day on the job was code 3 transport of an unconscious intubated person that was hanging blood. And my head person, and we didn't do third person FTEPs or anything like that when I first started. It was hey, new guy, guess what? Good luck. We'll see you in an hour. They put me in the back of the ambulance, gave me the blood, and off we went. So that's why, like, we want to try and get you guys ready for when you become a paramedic, because some departments don't spend a lot of time training you or anything like that. It's like, throw you to the wolves, good luck, try not to kill anybody. And so that's why, for me, I'm really particular about, like, who departments hire and stuff like that. I'm just being like, hey, this person is not ready. No, like when they call for background checks, I know who does what types of introductory to their department. And I'm just like, oh, you're gonna struggle with this person, and this is why it's like, hey, they need some time. They need to have someone there to help train them. And so, the little spiel I told Derek I was gonna give you guys has a lot to do with your internship and maximizing your internship and where you go in regards to how to do a paramedic, what you want to get out of your paramedic. There are places that will absolutely cater to you being a good paramedic, and there are other places that will absolutely cater to you getting your calls as fast as you possibly can. Goodbye, hello, goodbye, you're out, and you have no idea what you're doing. And so, so you guys need to think about what you want to get out of your internship before you make the determination on where you want to go. When I rode in Western Lane, so the cool thing is Corey and Derek are not here. And remember, anything that stays in the room with me stays here. Yep. But so you're talking about your hours and the calls that you need, right? So you need your 40 calls, you need your 300 and something hours, right? So I got all my hours, and I got 39 of my calls done, right? And so what I did is so at the time we would submit all of our calls. Like, hey, here's my calls, review them, make sure they're cardiac, make sure they're respiratory. So I submitted 39 of my calls, and I held a general medical call out. Because I wanted to keep writing, because the idea is as soon as you submit your last call, you're done writing, because the insurance for the college says you're done, you don't need to be there anymore. So I held my last general medical call, and I rode for another month with the crew. Because you will learn more on your internship than you will any other time that you are out there. Because as soon as you're in the back by yourself, you don't have a lot of, hey, bouncing stuff off people. You don't get to see people do things. When you have a preceptor with you, depending on your preceptor, and we've done a pretty good job of getting preceptors that understand what it is we're trying to accomplish. Those preceptors, like, I can't say enough for anybody that wants to ride at Western Lane or LFA. Those two places are amazing for students. They will spend the time and effort to make you better. I'll be totally honest, Eugene and Springfield internship sucks for paramedic students. You will get your calls fairly quickly, depending on what breed you're on, unless I send you to 16, and it's gonna take you forever, which is highly likely because we have a lot of probies right now.
Good Xbox skills.
Yeah, good Xbox skills, basically a waste of your internship time. But, like, you get a different preceptor every single time. With LFA and Western Lane, you're gonna have the same preceptor, the same 4 people, the same 2 or 4 people, depending on which place you go, your entire internship. So they see you improve, they know the comfort level with you, and you then advance with them, right? Me, like, if you guys were to ride with me, day 1, like, it was, like, when you guys would show up, because I knew you, I'd be like, hey, Mark, all right, you're up today, all right? So today's your first day. Go ahead and spend an hour back there in the back of the ambulance. I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna drink some coffee, I'm gonna do my thing. We've already checked our rig, but I want you to spend an hour back there. I'm gonna come out and I'm gonna quiz you. I'm like, if you can tell me where everything's at in the back of the ambulance, you are the paramedic today. And people are like, what? I'm gonna say, yep. And so I go, I am not gonna say one word the entire time, unless you're gonna kill somebody. I go, you're the paramedic, that's what you're here for, so act like it. And so some people would just be like, and like vapor lock and like not be able to do it. Granted, I did pick and choose who I had ride with me because that's what I do. I'm always judging, right? And it used to be I'd always, like, it was almost like a tryout throughout the first 2 terms. I'd be like, and then I would pick the student that I wanted to be like, hey, you want to come ride? And at our station with me because I was still on the ambulance. And so it got to the point, and so I would sit there and I'd be like, okay, I'd park myself in the airway seat and I'd let them run the entire call. I wouldn't say anything unless they were gonna do something wrong, and then I'd stop them and do it. And then after the fact, we'd talk about it. And those people flew through their internship, like, because after every call we talked about it, like, I wasn't sitting there micromanaging them the whole time. Because if you don't make mistakes, you don't learn. Some people, if they aren't comfortable with you and the way you make your decisions and stuff like that, guess where you're gonna be sitting?
In the airway.
In the airway seat, right? And so, that's the thing, like, when you think about what you wanna get out of your internship, I would gladly have a conversation with any of you about, hey, I wanna go here, what do you think about it? And we can have long conversations, about that. I mean, I've swayed people, I had people on our BLS rig that were like, I'm gonna ride a Eugene Springfield. I'm like, cool. I'm like, all right, so what do you want to get out of it? They're like, oh, this is what I want to do. I'm like, well, okay. You can absolutely be right there, but let me tell you about these other couple places. And then I put them into a total head spin and they didn't know what to do. And next thing you know, they're riding Western Lane and Derrick and stuff like that. So I will gladly have any conversation about internship. When it gets closer to internship, I'll tell you guys what to expect. Because like some people show up and it's a disaster, like because they don't know the right way to act, the right things to do. It's a job, basically it's a job tryout for you every time. So yeah, any questions? Tons, 100 of them. Cool. All right, so. Whew.
We're still on the intro slide. Sweet.
I know, man, we're cruising along here. Yeah, that's not nice. All right, so abdominal and pelvic trauma. So you have general anatomy, and these are the big ones that we're going to look at in regards to the abdomen. Goodbye. And so what's the biggest one here that we are concerned about in the pre-hospital setting?
Liver.
Yeah.
What takes up the most space?
The liver.
It has the most vascular
Liver.
Liver.
The
the
liver.
liver, right? So it's the largest generalized organ in the abdominal cavity, and it's very vascular, right? So it's your right upper quadrant. So if anybody ever has right upper quadrant pain secondary to an MBA, secondary to an insular trauma, we call that a hot belly. Because bad things are happening in there, right? So if it's rigid, they're more than likely bleeding out, and they're going to continue to bleed out, which, what's the only fix for that?
Surgery.
Gotta get to the surgery, right? So this is where your golden hour plays its role. Okay, so recognition. So we were talking about like general abdominal pain and medical calls. When it comes to trauma-related stuff, it's a little more important to now kind of pay closer attention to where that pain is located, right? So left lower quadrant pain, secondary to MVA, you got a seatbelt on, left lower quadrant pain. What's there?
Intestines.
Are there any major things there that you're totally concerned that they're gonna bleed out right now?
No.
There's really not, right? So anything kind of in the lower regions, it's like, okay, well, yes, they have their intestines, they have their mesenteric arteries and stuff down there that could potentially rupture, but a lot of those things are very elastic and move, and they're designed to have flexibility to them. Your liver, is that thing like a flexible type of an organ in there? Or is it like a big, like football type thing? It's a big solid.
It's not
I guess football's
solid.
a bad analogy because
It's a solid organ.
Solid organ. So it's just basically like just something just sitting there, right? So there's not a lot of movement that it is capable of doing. You got your gallbladder in your upper right quadrant, right? Is that a life-threatening thing
No.
in a trauma-related incident? How about a medical?
Yeah. You get septic, can't you?
Oh, it feels better.
Because it ruptured.
Is it ruptured, right? What kind of questions do we ask in regards to medical with gallbladder?
Rebound pain?
Do you have a history of it? Do you still have your gallbladder?
Okay? And so say I got this severe abdominal pain, right upper quadrant. And so they are, what do we want to know about their food intake?
Has it been high in fat?
High in fats, right? High in fats are going to cause an inflammation of your gallbladder. and it is usually on a pretty normal cycle. Every time after they eat the Mexican food, boom, 2 hours later, it's killing them. All right? Left upper quadrant pain, secondary to an MVA. Life-threatening, yes or no?
Yes.
Spleen.
What's the big thing up here that we're concerned about?
Spleen.
Hollow or solid?
Solid.
Vascular or non?
Vascular.
Okay. So this is the way we differentiate in the quadrants of the abdomen as we're giving our notification. So you got your upper right, upper left, lower right, lower left, right? Remember, it's always the patient's. Okay, so as you're like charting, as you're describing where pain is, break it down off the navel there, okay? So a little bit of a breakdown of where things are in the abdomen. So you basically have 3 regions in the abdominal cavity. You get your retroperitoneal, your pelvic, and your peritoneal. So what would you think retroperitoneal would be?
Behind the parent.
Behind the organs.
Right, so if you go back to your picture, so if you have retroperitoneal bleeds, okay, you have a retroperitoneal bleed, what would you expect that to, where would you expect that to be here? Because you see it right now.
No.
So basically it would be like the posterior side of your liver, it's bleeding out the back, filling up the back portion. So it's more, you're gonna develop what type of pain?
Flank pain?
You're gonna end up with flank pain that radiates, so this is where some of your radiation pain. Hey, yeah, you got your pain in your stomach or your pain in your back, does it radiate forward or back at all, right? And so.
That would
retroperi-
radiate forward from the back?
It depends on where the majority of the pain is located. So, majority of the bleeding is located. And so if it's retroperitoneal, a lot of times